It's very clear that President Trump has stolen the limelight. Everyone is talking about trade and tariffs and what's happening with Greenland. This was also meant to be the tech show. We have all the biggest tech companies here. Like, how, what will you focus on this week to try and get the most out of Davos?
Yeah, well, these are certainly interesting times. And, as a global organization, we really need an opportunity like Davos to be able to have many different conversations. We operate in continents around the world, and we try to focus on what we can really control, which is how do we make sure that AI is being developed responsibly and to benefit humanity. So we're really focused on a lot of those conversations this week.
Lila, what is DeepMind now? Is it still a research lab, or is it more like a product company?
Well, DeepMind was founded originally about 16 years ago as an AI research lab, and it continues to operate as such. But we've also been able to bring in becoming the AI innovation engine room for Google. So everything from Gemini and our latest models like Nano Banana, all the way to some of our scientific breakthroughs and our work in terms of what might the next breakthroughs in AI be, such as what's the next transformer technology. So we have quite a broad portfolio.
How much are you working on enterprise? I know Code is a big hit with developers. When will Google's versions, anti-gravity, come out?
Yeah, well, we've been really focused on continuing to make Gemini a really powerful model, bringing in capabilities that we think can unlock human potential. And Code was one of the areas that we really focused on in the past year, and really pleased with the progress we've seen with Gemini 3, which was announced at the end of last year.
So what's next for Gemini? Are you hiring more people to work on it?
Oh, and we're always looking at our talent. And so on Gemini specifically, we're continuing to think about what are the capabilities that will continue to increase the making it valuable for users. So things like, how do we continue to make it more factual? How do we help with things like reasoning, concepts, memory? We really believe that we can have a personal assistant, but in order to do so, there are a lot of areas that we need to work on, such as privacy, as well as how do you make sure that you have memory. So the AI understands me and my preferences and my needs, and I can use it as a tool as part of my everyday work. And what that requires is really understanding more of kind of the world model, the context around us in our daily lives.
Lila, is there anything that you've put on the back burner because of your big focus on Gemini?
Well, an organization like DeepMind, I think one of the extraordinary things is that we have been able to keep the breadth of portfolio. So when you look at last year, not only did we have Gemini and VO, progress in our video generation, audio, imagery, but also things like Weather Next 2, being able to predict weather forecasts, like 50 different paths of a hurricane for the next 15 days, which really, if you think about it, can really help with emergency preparedness. We've also made significant progress in some of our materials discovery to help with superconductors, to power supercomputers, or next generation batteries to help with electric vehicles. We've continued to advance work in Synth ID, our watermarking technology, ancient text to help us understand the past. I think there's so much exciting work that's happening, and that's actually what makes this such an extraordinary place to work. Is I've never been in a place that we're only limited by the ideas that we have. What are the biggest world problems that we might be able to address with AI?
It's going so fast. What are some of the ethical questions? I mean, you touched on privacy. There's a couple of other things that I know you think about, but how should we be looking at it? Because this is also a race. I mean, this is probably the biggest geopolitical race, even with other countries, including China. And so I wonder whether when you build it so fast, there's things that could break.
Yeah, well, we're always thinking about responsibility, safety, security from the very start. In fact, when we embark in our research projects and start to define them, we're also thinking about what are the risks, how might we mitigate them. If we don't have the expertise around the table, who are the partners that we need to partner with? But then also, what are the opportunities, and how do we make sure that we're not solely focused on the risks, that we miss the opportunities and invest in those? One of the things that I've been really excited about in the past year is some of the progress we've made around making Gemini better for learning and education. How do we make it more efficient, more effective, more engaging, so that learners, regardless of where they are in their life journey, the technology can meet them where they're at. And that, of course, also brings up a lot of questions and concerns that we have about, like, what is the relationship that humans have with their AI? How do we think about mental well-being? These are all areas of research and investment that we're making up front so that we can develop both the innovation as well as mitigate the risks and do so responsibly.
What are business asking you? So I'm sure you're meeting with a lot of big chief executives here, and a lot of them are excited. They're investing quite a lot or buying some of your models, but what do they need for their staff?
Yeah, well, one of the questions I got last night at dinner was about this, are we prototyping too much? Is there too much piloting going on? And my response was no, we're still early in AI's development. It can feel like we're far further along on the technology curve than you might expect, but there's still so much work to be done to make the models even better and more valuable for users. And as a result, we're never going to have as much time as we do right now to explore and really understand how do we want to shape the technology? Where and how do we want to set the boundaries? One of the things I've done with my own team is to say we need to be experimenting with using AI as part of our workflow.
Right.
And at the same time, what are the very human elements that we're bringing into the job that we should actually celebrate, retain, invest in? And I think it's really this kind of co-development of AI in the workplace, also recognizing the human value, and that's how we're going to shape how AI will reshape our jobs.
Lila, what is your biggest concern regarding, I mean, away from ethical questions, is it actually access to power? So is it trying to figure out the energy complex? Or is it just making sure that, rivals like Meta don't poach your staff? It seems like it's a massive global talent war, like maybe the banks were facing 10 years ago.
Yeah, well, actually, on the talent side, we tend to focus on is how do we make sure that we hire really good talent that are very values aligned with the work that we do. And because our mission is to build AI responsibly to benefit humanity, that shows up in the people that we hire and the culture that we build. And so from a talent perspective, I feel like we know what we want to do there. The ethical questions, I think it's not just about the ethics questions, it's also about misuse. So we think a lot about how do we make sure that the benefits are significantly outweighing the risks and the potential harms. So we think a lot about the governance, how do we make sure that this is regulated well, how do we operate responsibly in the countries where we are. I have to say that really what keeps me up at night is the risks. Are we doing everything we can to mitigate them? Are we thinking enough around the corner? Yeah. Because if you're not investing in that early, you can't be a bolt-on, right? It needs to be very early on. And then also, are we investing in the opportunities? We believe AI could be one of the most transformational technologies of our time, and we're already seeing how it's empowering creatives, how it's improving education and learning, how it's unlocking productivity and advancing scientific breakthrough. We're seeing real-world impact right now. And so I also worry a lot about, are we really maximizing the benefits to provide as much as we can for the world?